Wow. Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Larry Krueger. The 49ers just did something that I think most of you would have called insane a few days ago, but they just did it. They restructured Jimmy Garoppolo's contract. He's going to be here another year. We're going to look at this from everyone, like a bunch of different angles. Let's start at it from Jimmy's angle. What does this mean for Jimmy Garoppolo? Just when he thought he was out, they pulled him back in.
Well, it means that he's going to make about $18 million less as far as guaranteed money. It also means that if he makes the incentives, I mean, he's got incentives up to $16 million in incentives. So maybe he feels like he's only taking, maybe he's going to get, does this mean it opens up the job for him? Do they open up a competition? Does it mean that he's just here in case Trey, falls apart or fails or the team struggles? That part is kind of yet to be clarified. Is it open competition on the job? Doesn't sound like it. It sounds like he's here as the clear number 2, and we'll see where it goes. And they left themselves open options with the way they structured this, where if he wins the job, he's going to make as much as $16 million. If he doesn't win the job, he could stay for 6. They could also trade him, and he would have a seat at the table in deciding where he wants to be traded.
Sure. Is he even the number 2 quarterback on the team right now? I mean, he hasn't been there. What I will say, though, I think is the way the Niners handled this by holding on to him so long, I think they made it so it was impossible for him to be a starting quarterback. I think they structured it where by the end of training camp, they went to him and they were like, look, you could be a backup for us or you could be a backup somewhere else. What do you want to do? I think they felt that they could make a more competitive offer and that he'd be more comfortable here. If Trey falters, which he might, or gets hurt, boom, you're right back in. You're right back in the saddle on a team that you know and an offense that you know. If he goes to Seattle, even if he starts, does that help his stock? They suck. At least they look like they suck to me. So I'm not sure. It seems like this might be in his interest too.
Yeah, no, I think you're hitting on something. The other thing you got to remember, what if you're Don Yee, if you're Jimmy G, what do you really want to achieve this year? Would you like to start? Sure. But as you said, the starting jobs are all filled up. Right. So what you really need is you need to make sure that you're healthy and in one piece and ready to make 20 million again next year when the free agent window opens up again. So do you want to take hits on a bad team like Seattle or the New York Giants or one of these teams and maybe wind up getting hurt and missing out on that big free agent payday? Or if you stay here, you maybe compete for a Super Bowl, you maybe win a Super Bowl, you maybe play some role, and you're more likely to be healthy for your big free agent payday. He's not getting the big free agent payday if he's not healthy next year when the free agent window opens.
Also, from his perspective, this might be the best situation for him because he just saw Trey Lance in practice. From his perspective, he's thinking there's a lot of pressure on this kid. He has to win. There's no growing pains because I won to a degree. He has to win. He has to prove that he's better than me. He has to stay healthy. I mean, the pass protection is terrible. They're running the triple option. I just might get a chance to play again this year. And if I do, I know George Kittle. I know Deebo Samuel. Maybe from his perspective, this is the best opportunity for him. And again, I don't know what other teams might have been offering him if they were talking, but if he gets to play, there's all these incentives. He could make a lot of money on the Niners this year.
Well, and he doesn't have to wonder also, Grant, about what kind of person Trey Lance is. Right. Last year, Trey Lance sat and watched him the whole year, despite being the top 5 pick. Now it might be a situation where Jimmy has to sit and watch, but he's probably already decided that Trey is, at least personality-wise, a quarterback that he can live with in any role, whether he's on top or Trey's the starter or he's the starter. I think he feels like he can work with Trey and that he likes Trey. I think that makes it easier. I really do.
Also, if he goes to another team, like the locker room and the fan base won't be clamoring for Jimmy, the way they will here. If Trey starts and the team starts 0-2, or there's just they stumble out of the gate, there's going to be a lot of momentum push for Jimmy Garoppolo to play. I don't think it would be like that anywhere else. For a guy who is a decidedly mediocre quarterback, there's a mystique about him here. And until they win without him, there will always be that mystique here. So maybe he feels like, you know what? Let's see what you got, Trey. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's the best move of the moves that were on the table for Garoppolo. I think it was his best move at this point.
Guys, we're going to answer some of your questions. We're going to look at this from a bunch of different perspectives. So hold on. Some of your questions may lead us down that path. Callie Tremor says, and the NFL Daytime Drama Award goes to the San Francisco 49ers for the most tomfoolery and shenanigans during the NFL offseason. What a mess. Yeah, I think that's probably the first thing on a lot of Niner fans' minds. The reason most people thought this wouldn't happen is because it's messy. It's a distraction. It's a freaking circus, frankly.
It's great. I think it's great.
Why?
It. Because your best player on this team is Trent Williams, and he's 34 years old. And now you can look him in the eye. You can say, Trent, with all of our resources and all of our financial might and everything that we've got, we're trying to get it done this year. Who won the Super Bowl last year? The Rams. What defined the Rams? They were all freaking in on the Super Bowl from day one. Everybody knew the score. And I think that's how you win Super Bowls. You have to sprint towards it. You have to be passionate about it. You have to be all freaking in. And to me, this is the move that sends a message to Trent and everybody else, including all the 49er fans. The Niners are all in on this year.
Yeah.
Media circus, be damned. Trey's feelings, be damned. Inviting the circus to town, all of that is all secondary. It's all about being all in on the ring, and I think it's smart.
And that's why I bet my dad that this was going to happen. Cutting Jimmy doesn't hurt this team, doesn't help this team. It helps next year's team. Theoretically, you could roll over cap space, but they're in a Super Bowl window now. And I guess holding on to Jimmy Garoppolo says, look, we're not going to take a step back. We think Trey's going to make us better this year, but if he doesn't, we're open to being wrong and to being able to change direction. So good for them, I guess. Flav says, all my efforts finally got Niners' attention. No way they could rely on Trey alone this year. We're contenders again. He's so happy. Well, congratulations, Flav. Christopher says, what's the over-under in week 1 on Kyle calling QB power for Lance? I think it's 14.5 is a good number. Do you think they're going to go the 2 QB system that they were talking about last year?
No, I don't. I really don't. But I do think this sets them up perfectly in a lot of ways because they have an incredibly deep quarterback room. Now you might be able to trade a guy like Nate Sudfeld. I mean, he actually could be traded in this scenario. And I also just think I would love to see what this does to the Niners' odds in Vegas. I think it's going to improve their Super Bowl odds because really, Grant, you know this team as well as anybody. There was 3 irreplaceable players going into this year: Trent Williams, George Kittle, and Trey. And now there's only 2. So, I mean, that's a huge, that improves their equation for winning it all this year.
Lucuria says, so what should we do with that freed up 20 million cap space? Well, is it really freed up? I mean, if it could be, if he could trigger incentives, don't the Niners have to keep it available? I don't know.
I think, well, they have the full thing budgeted for. They weren't going to have to cut anybody. It gives them some cap relief in the present. And I'm not sure exactly how the incentives work if it rolls into the next year, but it clearly takes him off the base and makes him also, it makes Jimmy a tradable asset because now, I really believe that at the price tag at $6.2 million, he's a very tradable asset.
I wanted to talk about
that.
And
they may actually be able to get a day 3 pick or day 2 pick for him now at 6.2 that they were never getting at 24 or 25 or 26 or more.
Paul Third says, wait for it. Jimmy Garoppolo waiving his no trade to go to New England. I don't think they want him. Matthew Sanders says, beginning of the end for Kyle and John. Within 2 years, Niners will be on Hard Knocks. Lance declared a bust. D'Amico will be gone. Dark days ahead. Maybe.
Wow.
I mean, they're hedging. It doesn't seem like anything too bad could happen this year. I don't know how good they can be. Chris Telerico says, people actually think this regime can win a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo should have been traded once the trade for Trey happened. Lynch's seat should be the hottest ever. I agree that they should have moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo immediately. But they were in a tough spot because they'd only made the playoffs once. And that's why I kind of felt that Trey's timeline and the Niners' timeline were different. John and Kyle were under pressure to win last year. Trey should have gone to a coach who was in his first year as well. So there was no pressure to win right away. it's a little bit of an awkward fit, but they can
Well,
make it work.
you know what's awkward, Grant, is the fact that they took a very high level but raw quarterback that assuredly was going to take time to develop, and they have maybe the league's most impatient fan base.
Right.
They just went to the NFC Championship game. They've had two
Right.
failed Super Bowl runs. Lynch and Shanahan are trying desperately to win a Super Bowl to establish themselves in Niner lore. You know, the fact that they went for the rawest, most crude quarterback that was going to take time, you know, I don't know that they weren't thinking about their Super Bowl timeline, and now they're seeing,
Right.
you know, they want to speed that thing up, and so this is a way to kind of do both things, right?
Right. In retrospect, they should have just gone after Stafford if they were willing to trade 3 first-round picks. But from what I'm hearing, Stafford's elbow is messed up. That could be really an issue.
And
So,
you know what, the Stafford move looks great now because they won the ring, but the Stafford move inherent in that is shortening your Super Bowl window.
right.
And they wanted to, they're, you know,
Expand it.
Shanahan and Lynch are
Right.
relatively young men. They wanted a long Super Bowl window, and they
Right.
got that with Lance. But now I don't want to say they're hedging, but they're at least taking out insurance on this.
Ricky asks, this just shows how much confidence they have in Trey. I love Trey, but if they had low confidence in him, then why did they draft him in the first place? Okay, let's talk about Trey. What does this move mean for Trey in your eyes?
Well, I mean, it's a statement that, you know what, Trey, we're prioritizing competition over feelings, and I think that's a great statement too. You know, Joe Montana's best football came with Steve Young looking right over his shoulder. Steve Young's best football came with Joe looking over his shoulder. They actually both had a situation where they got a chance to play. Both of them would admit now, years later, that it brought out the best in them. Competition is the foundation piece that brings out the best in people. And now you're going to see the best of Trey because he's going to have to compete for everything he gets. So I think it's going to make him better in the long term. Maybe in the short term, he's got to look over his shoulder. But guess what? It's the NFL. So what? You know, it's not a big deal. Trey's got the right mindset and maturity for it. He's going to get there, but it may not be this year. Or if it is this year, it may not be linear. It may be something where he takes 2 steps and maybe he has an injury. Maybe there's a backslide. Now you're not wasting your Super Bowl window trying to let Trey get up to speed. Let's be honest, Grant, it's not really fair to drop the expectations of this franchise in this kid's lap as a 22-year-old in his first full year in the NFL. And now essentially they're giving him a little bit of an insurance policy, and I think that will help him.
Respectfully, I'm going to disagree with you on this, but we'll see what happens. The way I look at this is they're trying to sell us that this is the next Josh Allen. Toolsy guy, inexperienced, with the right coaching and environment, he can become a top 5 quarterback like Josh Allen. Well, there's been differences in the development process. With Josh Allen, again, he went to a first-year coach, and he wasn't on trial with every play, every practice, every throw, every drop back. He wasn't under that kind of scrutiny. It was like, well, we moved on from Tyrod Taylor. He's not here anymore. It's your team. Let's grow together. That's not what's happening here. With every move, every step Trey takes, they are watching him because they have to decide. You know what I'm saying? Like, are we ready to go from Jimmy to you? It's not like they're even moving on from a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's a mediocre quarterback, and they're still hesitant to move on. I don't see how Trey can really become Josh Allen if they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, couple. Like, what if they bench him after a month because they're 2-2? I don't see how he can ever become that. And maybe he's never going to be Josh Allen, but it seemed like for him to hit this ceiling that he was supposed to have, you'd have to like give him a vote of confidence at some point. I don't know. We'll see. It worked for Steven. But from Steve's perspective, it's like, okay, fair enough. It's the greatest quarterback of all time. I get it. It's Jimmy. You don't have confidence in me to be better than Jimmy? That hurts. I think that hurts.
Well,
Sorry.
I mean, it's a different situation. Steve
Yeah.
was in his, he was late 20s, right? Or maybe early 30s.
Right.
And Montana was obviously the king, where you're right. Garoppolo's got this odd popularity, but he's hardly the king. He's a flawed quarterback. It's much more of an open competition, I think, than that was. But I think overall I think it's good for Trey. I think it takes the pressure. first of all, we talk about Josh Allen. Josh Allen didn't emerge until the third year.
That's right.
Joe Montana did. Joe Montana was a 79 draft pick. He didn't even get on the field until 81. So to ask Trey in year 2, just because it's the modern NFL and we want everything faster, isn't necessarily fair to him. Now, I think that he's going to be a hell of a quarterback, but I think having competition is a good thing. I also think it's kind of tells everybody, we don't care about the media circus. It's great for guys like us, by the way, because now we have literally this unbelievable front and center NFL, soap opera going on in our backyard every day. But I don't know. I personally think that maybe Garoppolo and Trey are the right personalities at the right time to be able to handle this. Maybe even better than Joe and Steve did, really.
I just feel like there's a parallel universe where the Niners got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo as soon as they got Trey Lance, and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch put all of their confidence behind Trey, not just saying the right things, but actually showing their confidence in Trey. And I'd love to know, what would Trey Lance be like now in that universe, as opposed to what the Niners have done, which is the exact opposite. I guess we'll never know. But it's interesting. And again, it's not like he's a bust. It's not like this means he's going to have a bad year or that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start. He could be the freaking MVP. It's just right now, it seems like, what does this mean? It doesn't feel. I would think if I were Trey, I'd be like, you're kidding me. To me, I would think privately, he's like, you're kidding me. Are you kidding? I'd be pissed. Privately.
Well, yeah, I can understand that too, because it plays like, well, you failed.
And it makes me look bad publicly. Like I failed. Yeah, I failed. Yeah, I had this competition against no one, and I failed.
Let's ask this question. When they drafted him out of an FCS school with the least number of throws in 40 years of the first round of the NFL draft, no quarterback had less experience. What was a realistic time frame for him to ascend to whatever he's going to be?
And what did Jed say, right? What did Jed say? If he has to sit on the bench for 2 years, so be it.
Yeah. So, the fact is, I still look at him as significantly ahead of schedule. But I mean, this is the toughest job in sports. And I think he's going to beat out Jimmy, and Jimmy's going to be traded in October. That's what I think is going to happen, because I think the 49ers are hedging a little bit here because they've got so much on the table. But I also love the fact that they're going for they're re-signing both quarterbacks, because they're saying, we don't care about the circus. We don't fear it. And our priority is to win the Super Bowl. I asked you this several weeks ago. We talked about this one question. I said to you, if I gave you $100,000 and I put you in a casino and you could have Trey, or you could have Trey and Jimmy, what would you take? And I think your argument was Trey, because you wouldn't want the distraction. I look at it as it's a marathon, and you may need both quarterbacks to get there. To me, this strengthens the four. If I was holding a ticket right now on the Niners to win the Super Bowl, I feel way better today than I did yesterday.
Well, 4 months ago, they could have got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, got rid of the distraction, and brought in a real backup quarterback. But they missed that opportunity. And so at this point, if the choice is keep Jimmy or get rid of him and just hope Nate Sudfeld can win a game or 2 or 3 for you, no, you got to keep Jimmy. That's why I made this bet. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what it means for Trey. Look, this is my final question before we move on. If Trey completed 70% of his passes in camp and his TD to INT ratio was 2-3 to 1, you think they would have done this with Jimmy?
That's a great question.
I guess we'll never know. But you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. It does kind of feel like Trey missed an opportunity here to put this to bed.
Maybe there is a little bit of that, but it's also the NFL where guys get hurt. And you have and it's not like you're always going to be in this position. They have a stacked Super Bowl ready to win roster in a lame year for the NFC. I mean, I don't see any contender in the NFC. Now it's just about get in that postseason tournament. And if you have 2 quarterbacks in Kyle Shanahan and you get into the postseason tournament in the NFC, I think you got a great chance to go to the bowl. And if you do, you can't win the bowl that you're not in. So you got to get to the bowl, and then, who knows about the AFC, but I think this strengthens their chances of reaching Arizona. And I think that's the goal. And I think it's very clear. And I think the Rams going all in last year also makes this easier, because now you've got that vision is, hey, you better be all in on winning the Super Bowl, or somebody else may be, and they may get it.
Well, the way I look at the NFC is the Rams have an issue with Stafford's elbow. That's real. The best team in the NFC might be Minnesota. I think they were a terribly coached team with a lot of talent, and now you have basically the Rams coaching staff plus Ed Donatel. I'm intrigued. Plus, they're in a terrible division. Dallas and Philly are good. It's wide open. It's absolutely freaking wide open. Green Bay's down. Tampa's down. I mean, they've lost a lot of offensive linemen. So, yeah,
the Niners have the best roster in the conference, I think. I mean, look how loaded they are. They're in my mind, they're 11 deep on the D line. That's best linebacking core, top to bottom in all of football. They're deeper on the corner now. They're deeper on the O line.
I just can't get over the fact that they have like one starting caliber offensive lineman, maybe two, depending on what Mike McGlinchey's at, and maybe more.
Look what they had last year.
They had 3 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line last year. So I don't know. We'll see.
They almost went to the Super Bowl with Brunskill and Compton on the right side.
Those guys are better than what Compton was actually decent. Brunskill is decent. Like, we don't know. Burford is promising, but he's 21. What's he going to be like as a rookie? I don't know. I mean, I know the Niners had 7 in the top 100 and the Chargers had 8. They're right up there. But questions, hold on. Let's answer some questions. The main thread says, cue the trade trolls. Shake my damn head. Anthony Adams says, it's clear Jed and John are the reason Jim is here. This is going to backfire. If Jimmy plays, his noodle arm style will be sickening to watch. I do feel like, Jimmy was allowed to start 3-5 last year. I don't know that Trey's going to be allowed to start 3-5 this year with Jimmy waiting. Karan says, who cares about the quarterbacks? What wine are you getting? My dad said he was going French. So I'm thinking I'm going to get a nice French.
Get red. Get some red.
One thing's for sure is that we'll miss Where's Waldo, Jimmy reports. Yeah, I'm sad about that. My whole Jimmy bit's over because he's here for the next year. Oh, well. Joshua Wyatt says, is it me or did Jimmy Garoppolo's trade value just go through the roof? They could actually get a second rounder for that new contract if a quarterback. No, I don't think you're getting a second rounder for him. I don't think so. I'm sorry. He's a backup quarterback right now. Right? I don't know. He's
not to interrupt, but the big question is that poor lady who's been drawing Garoppolo going to keep drawing him?
You got a lot more drawings to do. She has to. At least it's just a 1-year deal with a no trade clause. Interesting. We can't be all in with such an inexperienced offensive line. They got time, but yeah, that's the way I look at it. Like, what? I don't know.
One other thing on the deal, Grant. It's not a restructure. A restructure means that you extend the deal year 2, year 3, year 4. This was a pay cut.
Pay cut. That's fair. Pay cut. Yeah, we call this
was a pay cut.
Yeah. Jason Hagar says having a backup with a financial incentive to have the starter fail will have no poor repercussions in the locker room. It's not all in. It's a hedge. To me, this is, again, you got to talk about the fact that this could divide a locker room for sure. I mean, Jimmy has
they feel like they can handle
allies in there. What?
No, you're right, Grant, because this is volatile. But you know what? I like it because Eddie D was volatile. The 90. Ask your dad about the 94 Niners. The 94 Niners mix was volatile. Though, don't tell me that those locker rooms that had Ronnie and Haley and these guys, there wasn't some volatility. There was a ton of volatility. Volatility is not necessarily bad.
Mason gives me $2 for always being right. I appreciate that. Thank you. More for just for acknowledging it. Flav says we also have some money now for in-season pickups. What a huge season-saving move by the Niners. And again, they also could trade him. I agree that he's now more attractive because that the contract was an albatross. That's not an issue anymore. Heather Taylor says, doesn't the rework deal have a no-trade clause? Yes.
But a no-trade clause means that he just has a seat at the table when they want to trade him. He has to okay it.
Right.
I think that's smart too.
Right. If he has an opportunity to get traded to a team and play, he's not going to be like, no, I want to be the backup here. I want to stay.
Or Trey beats him out. What if we think that Trey's better than he is. So what if we're right and Trey beats him out and starts off and looks great and doesn't get hurt? They may get to middle of October or whatever the trade deadline is and say, hey, what quarterback got hurt? You want Jimmy? Here. Now he's making $6.2 million. Give us a third. So this could work. The Niners could benefit. It could be short-term insurance and a way to get something in compensation coming back.
Mason Kwok says Jimmy staying allows SF to get compensation no matter what. Plus, Jim becomes way more appealing of a trade target with $6.5 million. Worried for locker room. Yeah, definitely fair. Thank you, Mason. Big Tim 3 says Lynch said they're pretty close to a trade. Could this restructure mean a trade is really coming? Did he say they're pretty close to a trade? I missed that.
I didn't see that.
Domain Threat says, screw it, go and grab Tart. Then I'll know we're truly all in for this year. I mean, he just got cut. I feel like the Eagles got a real good look at Jaquiski Tart, and if they didn't even want him as a backup. So I don't know if Tart's
the question is Tart who is not a productive interceptor of the football, is he that much better than Gibson, who they just picked up, who has 27 career interceptions?
Right.
I mean, the Niner coaches would know. I'll say this. I would definitely be interested in bringing Tart back. He knows the defense. He fits in well in the room. He's a physical, hard-hitting player. I'd take him back.
Heather Taylor says, I think Lance is mature enough to handle it. Are the rest of the players in the locker room? Find out. George, looking at you, George. What does Jimmy Garoppolo mean for quarterback 3-4 on the roster? My thought was that I'm not sure either one will make the team, but Jimmy may not be even ready to contribute yet. Maybe they keep one of the two. Maybe they keep both of them.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Purdy has played the best quarterback of really all three of the quarterbacks in the preseason. Now, does it matter? No, it's preseason football. But I mean, are you going to ignore what you're seeing? The guy is throwing dime after dime after dime. Yeah, he had the one pick, but I mean, he also threw a touchdown that Willie Snead treated like it was a volleyball game. I mean, I think I would. To me, there's one message that should come across loud and clear. Quarterbacks are not linebackers, D linemen, or safeties. You have different rules for quarterbacks, and I would keep all my best quarterbacks, and I think Purdy's their third best quarterback. I'd keep him.
Richard's Remedy says they now have 8 of the top 106 players in the NFL, according to the NFL Network. True. Jim Bill 1 says, Larry's always you are spot on. They're going to need Jimmy Garoppolo before the season is over. Solid move by the Niners, Grant. Jimmy wins, bud. And I win because Jimmy is on the team. So thank you, Jimmy. Chris says, Josh has a real quarterback coach with a real coaching staff behind him. This regime is the problem. Jimmy Garoppolo will never be the reason they'll win. Trey can be. I'm with you. That's another thing that Josh Allen had going for him is freaking Ken Dorsey. Brian Greasy has a lot to prove. On the goal line says, what happens when Trey has a few bad games? And you have people like Kittle who love Jimmy Garoppolo saying, hey, we win with this dude. Take Trey out. Locker room disaster waiting to happen. Crazy stuff, man. It just seems like the Niners are never really going to truly develop Trey Lance. Like they're always going to be.
I don't know, never. I mean, it's year 2. Rodgers waited for 4 years.
Yeah.
To me, it's just not necessarily going to happen in a straight line.
Yeah.
The kid has demonstrated what he is as a person, and he's on the right track. It's going to take some time, though. It's not, and it's that to me is clear as day. He's raw. It's going to take time. I think he's going to get there, but doesn't mean it's going to be this year. So why not just have that insurance? If it is this year, great. If it isn't this year, now you're covered.
The Goose says, I don't think it's a lack of confidence toward Lance. I think it's insurance in case Lance gets injured. God forbid Nate Sudfeld steps on the field. Fair enough. Matthew Sanders.
Be a one quarterback team.
No, you can't. Matthew Sanders says if he falters, gets injured, etc., he will be benched, and then he's a bust. This is Silicon Valley. They will cut bait so fast, kid's been set up. Matt's having a bad time. I wouldn't go that far. Don't go to DEFCON 3 yet. This is still Trey's team. If he plays well, Jimmy Garoppolo is a non-factor. Donald Johnson says, I totally agree with GC. Lance is on football house arrest. The microscope is on everything he does. Also, Trey will only get better if he plays. Yeah, as long as he plays, he should have the fortitude to handle this type of scrutiny because it's going to come no matter what if you're the Niners quarterback. But he needs to play. I hope they don't actually pull the plug on this whole thing. I don't think they will. We're now keeping the 106th best player in the NFL. A lot of Jimmy Garoppolo fans in the chat. Welcome. Thanks for coming back. Good to have you. Grady Williams says, I like Krueger. Like Krueger said, I think it will be a respectable trade piece now or before week 8. I still think it's Trey's team. It's Monday, August 29th, and Jimmy Garoppolo stays with the Niners. Super Bowl, here we come. Wow. A lot of people.
Well, you know what the reality is, Grant, too, that we're not really talking about? In some ways, this is set up with, hey, you got 2 quarterbacks, and you want to win the Super Bowl, and you don't want any excuses why you didn't win the Super Bowl. And so now you got them both.
Yeah.
But the
Instead of having to
reality
pick
is,
one.
you know it and I know it.
Yeah.
Whichever quarterback ultimately wins that Super Bowl, most likely, is going to be the future quarterback of the 49ers.
True.
If Jimmy somehow wins that Super Bowl,
True.
and then you know what? They'll find
True.
they'll find a new home for Trey Lance, and there'll be plenty of teams that will take him. If Trey wins that Super Bowl, they'll move off of Jimmy, and everybody will move on. But I really believe that whoever wins the Super Bowl, unless it's like Trey's dominating and Jimmy gets in there at the end and wins the Super Bowl, then maybe they would stay with Trey. But I really think almost whoever wins it's going to keep the gig.
Ben Meyerson says Kyle Shanahan can't commit to a quarterback 6 years in. I hate this team. Give him time. He just needs another 6 years. Nick Brown says, I see this team telling Trey to fake an injury if he messes up. Oh, wow. Do you see that coming, or will he be another QB like Love on Packers? Like, hey, Trey, your back hurts. I just want you to know. We're not benching you, but your back is – I don't know. I don't know how these things work in the NFL. Let's get to our next topic. We'll come back to some more questions. What does this mean for the 49ers, this trade? I mean, this pay cut for Jimmy Garoppolo.
It means they don't have to worry about, Jimmy winding up in the division with the Rams or Seahawks, beating them, and potentially taking a great situation for John Lynch and making it really, really hot, really, really fast, I think. Because I think John Lynch and his front office have done a pretty damn good job with the roster through and through, and for the most part. And I think this year, their draft haul, when you consider the guys they got in the draft and after the draft, is almost the equivalent, if not better, than John McVay, Bill Walsh's 86 draft, which set up the Niners for awesome run in 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, really all the way through the mid-90s. So that 85, 86, Rice in 85, awesome in 86, deep draft. This is an incredibly deep draft. So I think they're set up perfectly here for the future. And I think ultimately it's a great move for the front office. It alleviates the risk of him beating them and then the whole public turning on them and bouncing them out of the Bay Area, because Jimmy and the Seahawks went to the playoffs and Trey and the Niners, finished 6-11.
It just feels like a bit of a distraction and a bit of a sideshow. Like, this team is a defense running team. For the last 4 or 5 years, they've all been about working around the quarterback. And now this quarterback indecision between the mediocre vet and the inexperienced young guy who can't beat out the mediocre vet is just hanging over the whole team. And I guess if one guy, most likely Trey, ever just takes the job and runs with it, they'll be fine. But now it just feels like the kind of dysfunction that great teams don't have, to me. I'm sorry. This doesn't feel like the thing that the team that's about to win the Super Bowl does, to me. This feels like, again, like you're searching for something.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch called their own bluff when they drafted Trey Lance. They went with, I think, the guy with the highest level skills, but they also went with the guy who needed the most tutelage and the most coaching. They went with the rawest, crudest, highest end quarterback. And so you can't get 1 year into it and be like, oh man, this crude high end quarterback with tons of skills is crude and he needs to coach.
Turns out he wasn't ready to go right away, huh?
Yeah, he wasn't ready to go. And we don't want to, and yet I think it also recognizes who the fan base is. This fan base it's a great fan base. It's a passionate fan base, but it's also one of the most impatient, spoiled fan bases. We expect it, and we expect it now. We don't have the patience to sit there and wait for 3 years. So, this just hedges. If Trey isn't ready, you got something that you can go with. You're not just throwing away the season in, what Trey had to develop. Yeah, but you've built too good of a roster to throw away this season. It's too deep of a roster. It's too hard to accumulate the kind of talent that they've accumulated to throw it away with, but Trey just wasn't ready, right? That's what this is about.
Right. And it's like everyone's saying you're crazy to take that risk. Well, now they're not. Not now. He's still the quarterback, and that's still the plan. But if he is a total bust the way some people think, then they can fall back to what they were doing before. Larry, come back. There you are. You good?
Yep. Start with that.
All right. I want to ask, what does this pay cut for Jimmy Garoppolo mean for a potential trade? We've alluded to it before, but let's talk about it right now.
Well, I mean, to me, this is the best part of this entire thing. You now took a player who there was no market for, and now you have a burgeoning, incredible market. And it could be even that much more incredible by the time you're actually ready to maybe pull the trigger on making a trade. So I think you might be able to get like a third round pick for Jimmy G if the right situation comes up, just because you got a $6 million quarterback. Especially, I mean, and it could go a number of different ways. I mean, Trey could look really good, and then you could want to move Jimmy. Jimmy could come in and play well, and then it could be there could be an injury. I mean, it just gives you options to trade if you want he has to have a seat at the table, but that's okay anyway, because the reality is nobody wants to take a quarterback who's coming into their system against their will. So he was gonna gain approval anyway. So the trade clause is a non-factor. You can't franchise tag him, so he's got the knowledge to know that he'll be a free agent at the end of the year. So he's just, and right then at the end of the year is when these jobs will come available anyway. So ultimately, it's about Jimmy trying to ensure that he won't waste this year, and he'll wind up in the free agent window with lots of options and maybe a ring.
I do think this makes him more attractive in a trade in the sense that he was not attractive at all beforehand. But you got to remember that there are incentives in this deal. So if a team is trading for him to play, he's not going to be $6.5 million. He'll probably be more expensive, which isn't expensive, but they'll have to figure that out if they have the right.
But not necessarily. What if Trey plays really well? See, if Trey plays really well and Jimmy's an insurance policy, and we get to week 6 or whatever the trade deadline is, and Jimmy has only played one half, he's not making any of those incentives. And
do we know what the incentives are? Like how many yards and throws and games
I think
he has to do to actually
probably
make money?
tied to games played.
I'm sure. So, but if it's, I
So
guess
he
we'd
might
have to
not.
see. We'd have to see exactly what the specifics are. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just found out there was no trade clause during the show. So, but it does make the trade. I think it makes the trade plausible as opposed. It was dead. It was never going to happen at 27 million. But now it seems like it could, depending on how desperate a team gets. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But if a quarterback gets hurt, it could happen.
Right. And it has to probably be the right quarterback. It probably has to be a contending team, but maybe not. If Jimmy gets an early season look and plays well, that could also help his market.
But I still feel like Jimmy, the best case scenario, if you were Jimmy or his agent, you'd be thinking, I really hope Trey fails and I get to come back and the team plays well, because all of a sudden his stock goes back up. Because the narrative right now is that Jimmy was overrated and they were carrying him the whole time. But if they prove they can't win without him, all of a sudden that je ne sais quoi, that certain something that Jimmy brings is tangible again, right? He has his argument that he is the straw that stirs the drink, even though he's really, really, really not. I think that's the best thing that could happen to him is if Trey fails, he comes back and does the same stuff he always does. I don't know if he's rooting for Trey.
I know this is not the plan, but what if Trey plays, whatever, he gets hurt or struggles, Jimmy gets in there and leads the team to the Super Bowl? I mean, I think this is a better team. This might be the best roster they've had. So it wouldn't be outlandish to think that he could win the Super Bowl this year. If he did
I'd like to see him behind this offensive line.
That is true. That is a concern. I mean, this is definitely an evolving picture on the offensive line. But, I mean, the rest of this roster is so stacked.
Yeah.
And now they've got a little cap relief. This trade also enables, because of the potential cap relief, the Niners to have flexibility if they find a player that they do feel gets them over the top that isn't tied to Jimmy, maybe either at this cut down. I'll tell you one interesting name that I think, I read this weekend could be cut down, who's an incredible player, is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for the Saints. You're talking about one of the best nickel players in the game. And you got Womack, and I like Womack, don't get me wrong, but if I could add, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at nickel, now you're talking about a Super Bowl caliber secondary, really premier. And they're saying the Saints may move on from him. So this just opens up a lot of avenues for you, both at the cut down and right up until the trade deadline.
All right, we got a lot of super chats to read. True Boxing King says, giving Grant his flowers now. A lot of haters, but he comes out on top. He's truly the best we got covering the Niners, crowning him now This is not someone in my family, I promise. Thank you, True Boxing King. P.S. Jimmy's new contract has a no trade clause. I know it's interesting. David Velez says this makes Jimmy G a lot more tradable mid-season. Jimmy gets to pick his team if the chance arises, and if Trey gets hurt, from all the lookout blocks were covered. True. Agree. Melvin Elmore Jr. says, in your opinion, how do you think Trey will play with Jimmy breathing on his back? I think this wasn't Kyle's decision. I don't know. I felt like Trey played his best in minicamp when Jimmy Garoppolo was in LA, but maybe I was wrong. That's the way I saw it. I guess. Sorry, there's a lot of pressure, and you got to rise to the challenge.
I mean, if he plays worse, maybe he ain't the guy.
Possible. Ricky Miranda says, I don't know how Trey can develop when he has to constantly look behind his shoulder for Jimmy, especially when half the team loves Jimmy more. You know, I remember when I was a kid, I didn't get it at the time because I was young, but they won the Super Bowl with Steve Young. And as he's running around, he does that big thing where he says, get the monkey off my back, get the monkey off my back. And they do the whole thing. I'm like, what was that about? But now it was a huge thing for Steve. And again, replacing Joe was a much bigger thing than replacing Jimmy, but there is a metaphorical monkey on Trey's back, and it just got a lot heavier. It did. I guess Steve dealt with it. You got to deal with it.
In a weird way, though, we don't know how this is going to play, Grant, because, Trey could play great. He could be like the unquestioned guy. They could keep Jimmy, and then Jimmy could wind up winning 3 or 4 games, getting them into the playoffs, maybe a playoff picture that they wouldn't get into without him. And Trey could be standing in Super Bowl Sunday holding the trophy that Jimmy helped him get by helping the team qualify for the playoffs. So, I mean, there's just a lot of different ways this thing
maybe
can go.
It'll be a 2-quarterback system, Larry.
Well, I'll say this. In the way, somebody compared playing quarterback in the NFL to dodging cars on the freeway. And when you go on the sidelines like we have just been through training camp, you can see why. I mean, the NFL defensive linemen are big, strong, fast, and they are coming after the quarterback. And I would rather take a chance with quarterback depth in any year in a league with as many fearsome defensive linemen as this. You're playing Aaron Donald twice a year. He could take out one of your quarterbacks in one of those 2 games.
Also, Kyle's quarterbacks have gotten hurt every year except for 2019. So, yeah. Sacktown Izzy says, do the Niners get a 3rd-round comp pick for Jimmy if he stays in the team until the end of the season? Yes, if they have more people leave in free agency than they sign next year, right? You only qualify for comp picks if you have more go out than come in.
I think, it's an equation that ultimately determines how many comp picks you get. But they would be in line for a comp pick.
I don't understand, says Smack Jones, just in general. I feel you, Smack. The Niners didn't do a great job of explaining this one. What I do think is funny is they went from Jimmy's not on the team. He's 4th on the depth chart. He's not here. Don't look at him throwing over there. Forget it. Don't look at the man behind the screen. And now it's like, oh, actually, he's on the team. He's our backup quarterback. We were just kidding. Like, you're not explaining this to the fans or the media well. Everyone's really confused, and I think the Niners I think Kyle gets a kick out of that for sure.
Well, this goes back to your question before. If Trey had completed 70% of his passes and was super sharp, would they be going this direction? My guess is that the answer is probably no. Yeah. And so there, all these things factored in. I really do believe that.
Vancouver 331 says the wine should be Italian like our boy Jimmy. Fair, but the last one I got from my dad after winning was an Italian, so I think he's trying to balance it in terms of his European whatever. Trey Niners says, I've been saying restructure Jimmy's deal since last season, and no one was on board, but now people are saying it's a good move. Well, I guess the Niners had to really convince Jimmy, you're a backup quarterback, and they did that by holding on to him. Jimmy wanted to start, and the Niners were like, no, we'll cut you at the very end, and if a team still wants you, then fine. And I guess no one wanted him. So they were smart. I guess they got revenge for Jimmy springing that maybe it wasn't revenge. The San Francisco Equivocators. That's a big word. Flav says, we'll have to run Trey into the ground to hide his inabilities this year. Good chance he will get injured and can't rely on Sudfeld with this roster. I did say that. Well, as soon as they started putting in the triple option, I'm like, he's going to get hit. Yikes. So possible. See, Turley says, have your dad get you a bottle of Chateau Mission Haut-Briand fine French wine. I'm thinking that's probably going to be a little too expensive, but it sounds nice. A few more. Orson View says, Grant and Dr. Disrespect, make it happen. He was at the Niners. I'd never heard of him.
Right.
V says, GC trolling all the time. If he doesn't get traded, then awkward times are coming for GC. I know. I got to find a new way. Greg Tame says, did we see the dual QB scheme? That's what I was thinking. Leo says, tinfoil hat time. This has all been Kyle playing 4D chess so that he can implement his 2-quarterback system. Showing the triple option was the cover he needed to add playing time incentives for Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe. I like how everything is so explained so poorly that people can't help but come up with these tinfoil hat theories. And they're always...
what was the best explanation so far of this whole thing?
What?
Your video yesterday with the dramatic pause. That was the best explanation. Because that's how long we waited.
That's what it felt like. Haha, Jimmy G is back. Best outcome for everybody except your jokes. Trolled. Great coverage on the Niners, though, Grant. Yeah, in my face. Jonathan says, if this was about winning a Super Bowl, this pay cut would have happened in July. Nothing has changed. The Niners hedging and refusing to give away value if it hurts Trey is the question. I don't think they could have gotten Jimmy to take this pay cut in July. That's what I think they had to convince him, hey, man, you're a backup this year. There's no job for you. Remember, they let him search for a trade. Hey, go ahead, bud. Knock yourself out.
I think this is a good situation where it just so happened that it took until, almost September, but they finally got into a thing where both sides, Jimmy and the Niners, could do a move that they both wanted to do that was the best move for them in the moment. So this is the best move for the Niners in the moment. This is the best move for Jimmy in the moment. And so, we got here. I think that's probably the best way to say it. I think they now finally are on the same page.
I think Jimmy messed up. I think there was no way the Niners could actually legally keep Jimmy Garoppolo off the field. He passed his he was cleared to play. He was cleared to practice, and he's under contract. He could have went to the Niners and say, I want to practice. He could have put himself out there every day with Trey and said, I'm competing for this job. And that way he might have won it, and they couldn't have actually said, now we're going to restructure your contract. But didn't happen. Now he loses a bunch of money. I'm just saying he could have. I think Steve McNair did that. They were trying to keep him off the field in Tennessee. He said, I want to practice, and they traded him to Baltimore. I could be wrong. I think they did that. I was in high school back then. Just
will there be a competition for the job, or is it Trey's job unless Trey either gets hurt or gets knocked out?
Well, Larry, we won't know, right? They have 2 weeks of practices where we won't be there. So they could do it. Right. They could do all kind of stuff the next 2 weeks and we won't know. Interesting. Domain Threat says none of this will matter without near elite play at center. Given how important that position is on this offense, I'm shocked they ignored that spot. It better be Brendel. I was watching Brunskill today. He was working on the side. I couldn't videotape it because he's rehabbing, but it was like a drill where he snaps a ball to a trainer in the shotgun and runs 10 yards and then does it again. Those snaps were so low every time. I don't think he's a center. I know they want him to be a center. I think he's not a center. I think it's got to be Brendel. I don't know. We'll see about Brendel. Any thoughts?
One guy we're not talking about that it could be the highest graded offensive lineman in the last game against the Texans was Zakel.
Wow.
Would they try Zakel at center? He's a big physical kid. Smart too.
Christian Rocha says, Grant, I'm going to divorce my wife, but I'm going to keep her in my house in case the new wife doesn't work out. That's the night. Hey, call that the Kyle Shanahan, the John Lynch, the Jed York. I like that. Way to hedge. Niner Rob 25 says, does this mean Nate is gone? It should. I'm sorry, Nate. I think if you want to stay on the practice squad, by all means. J Sports Enthusiast says, this is bad news. No matter how you put it, it's a bad idea bringing Jimmy back. Next, I'll hear Lakers restructure deal for Westbrook to keep him. Westbrook isn't restructuring anything. Anyway, Smack Jones says, ask the tough questions tomorrow, please. If Trey starts 3-5 like Jimmy, will he get the same grace? If we keep in him, why not let him practice? That's the question. If you wanted to do this why was he not out there in training camp? That's why I asked you the question about if Trey was better, would this have ever happened? Like, was it an opportunity for Trey to sort of a dry run? Hey, take the job. Oh, you didn't.
It's hard for them to say that their whole plan was to do the renegotiation, seeing that Jimmy was on a side field. But we really don't know as far as how much is he a part of what their installation of their offense, whatever changes they had from last year to this year. Yeah. I got to think that he may have been privy to some of that behind the scenes. I don't know if we're ever going to get the honest answers to those questions.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe the Niners and Jimmy were on the same page for the last month.
Privately, they could privately be on the same page and kind of publicly be on, looking like they're on different pages.
Right. Flav says, lay off Grant, guys. He thought Trey was ready and doing his best. Trey the starter, but now have insurance. This move should bring real fans to get real fans. Flav's having a great day. Flav, congratulations. Because Flav's a Niner fan.
Flav shows up on the Krueger show. He's very, very generous.
Flav's a great guy. Should have gotten Brady then. Well, yeah, but that's 2 years ago? Yes. Thomas Delacruz says, I hope you grill Lynch and Kyle on this Jimmy move. You got it. Tomorrow. Larry will be there too. You coming tomorrow?
You know what? Tomorrow I'm filling in on the radio for Dibs.
Okay.
So I'll be there Wednesday.
No trade clause means Jimmy just has to agree. Yeah, Jimmy, that to me is not a big consideration. Flav says, can we just recognize the class of Jimmy G too? Hasn't said a thing after all the success he's had. Now taking a pay cut to stay. Imagine Mayfield. True. And when people said he was going to request a release, I was like, I don't think so, man. That's not his personality brand. It's not what he wants to be. So he was consistent. Good for Jimmy.
I guess they don't mind the fact that he doesn't answer his cell phone now, huh? Suddenly that story.
Maybe he did. Hey, Jimmy, we want you one more year. Oh, okay, I'm back.
Look at that. I got the text.
David Sir says, freed up cap space, carrying 2 QBs to free up roster space, cheaper comp pick, Trey still QB1. Let's keep things positive. Larry's been doing a good job of keeping things positive, and I've had a tough time arguing with his logic. So Scoozy says, every time something happens, we think it's not Kyle's decision. Do people think he has no say ever? Fair. This is his team. He pretty much has all the say.
He's the guy.
Haha says, quick release for the win. Hey, congratulations to Jimmy Garoppolo's supporters. This is a good day for you. CT Law says, okay, at least say I was right. There's no way Jimmy is his backup. The details of his contract aren't fully disclosed. Being a backup to Trey kills his value. He has had the playbook and practicing out of sight. Very happy right now. CT Law is putting $50 down saying,
look at
CT Law. Jimmy's going to start. I don't think Jimmy starts week 1 when he hasn't done anything all offseason. That'd be a little irresponsible. He's not ready. They have to get him ready now.
You know, there's something about CT Law that I really like. CT, you're invited to the Krueger show anytime you want. Anytime you want to stop by.
Spread the love. It just feels like you talk about Trey not being ready. How is Jimmy ready to start week 1? Ready? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. I have not been watching him. I've been watching the field. So I've been looking over my shoulder at Jimmy. I have no idea how he's throwing it. I have no idea how the shoulder's feeling. I think there's a lot of questions on that front. You know, where is he in this mix as far as being ready to play? He didn't play any preseason games. Does he not need to play any games? Is he ready right now, or is he going to be ready in like 3 weeks? Will he be active week 1? Will he be up? I mean, there's several questions on the Jimmy front as far as what he's ready to contribute in the present that I think I'd like to ask.
I thought he was a slow starter, even coming off entire off seasons where he had all the reps in mini camps, OTAs, training camp, or at least training camp. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he's good enough to just walk on the field cold and be great, but maybe not. Thank you, CT Law. David Wilson says, if Trey gets hurt, I don't see a ring coming, whether it's Jimmy or Nate. Playoff stats speak for themselves. Yeah, but at least they don't go 6-11. That can't happen. This team can't go 6-11. And I guess there was a fear that they would have a really bad year if Trey Lance just wasn't ready. Well, they can always prevent Kyle Shanahan's win-loss record from getting a little bit worse, right?
Well, I think that's another factor. I mean, if I'm Shanahan and I'm sitting there looking at my record, I'm sub 500. I'm one of the best coaches in pro football, and I'm sub 500. And it's all because I don't have a second quarterback. So, I'm going to wind up with another situation where I don't have a second quarterback.
True.
So I think, that could be a factor in this as well, though I do think the overriding factor is win the Super Bowl. I mean, win the Super Bowl, set yourself up, be all in.
Give yourself a chance.
All in.
Make the tournament.
Exactly.
Especially this year. Sven says Tart reunion possible. Do you think the Niners will do that?
I would not be shocked by that. I mean, I think Tart is a great guy. I think they like him. I think they're really thin at safety. If you're going to change bodies at this late in the game, in the middle of the field, I want somebody who knows what the hell's going on. And he does. So he would be on my super short list. I still would have to see him work out. And I want to know how well he's moving. But I saw him make a play in that Philly scrimmage the other day. He went flying and lit the guy up on the sideline. He looks... if he's weak side linebacker size, maybe I don't want him. But if he still has anything close to his speed from a year ago, I do want him.
Christopher says, good move for Niners. Jimmy probably will play sometime during the season. I see what you're saying. Robert says, Jimmy didn't need to practice or actually play. Still got $6 million. He hustled us. Jimmy Garoppolo, his number one ability is making money. He's so good at it, and you got to respect that in the United States of America. Justin says it's August 29th, and Jimmy Garoppolo is staying on the team forever. Lorenzo says, Larry Grant, I think I'm going to be sick, Grant. I must say, you called it since day one. I won't go to any more games until he's not going to go to any more games until he's gone. I'm going to tell Jed that you said that. Sorry, Lorenzo. Trey's going to be playing, though. Jimmy's going to be there watching.
The drama is better today to me.
Way better.
If you like, some drama in your sporting events, come on, man.
Swizzy says, can you at least say that at least we have the best backup in this situation in case Lance doesn't work out? I actually love this move. It's a good point. I mean, the Niners now have a backup quarterback that they have won like 65, 70% of their games with. What other team can say that, right?
What's happened to the Super Bowl ratings since the move? I'd be very interested to see. I bet you they're better than they were.
Good. I'd like to know too. Lunkers365 says all this move did is stir up the Jimmy Truthers, to say it nicely. Sucks we have to listen to it now all year. Yeah, there really is like a civil war of Niner fans going on right now. Maybe this can bring them together. Niner fan 85 says, who do you think will be captain, Jimmy or Trey? I think Trey. You think that might be awkward? Well, was Jimmy ever a captain? Was he?
I don't know, actually.
I don't know.
Was he in part of the, he's got a committee of guys. What if week one, they're both up and they're both the captains? That would be awesome.
That'd be amazing. 2-quarterback system. Hutch Serves Gaming says this move shows the Niners are taking this 2022-2023 year very seriously. They want a ring, and this is their insurance policy. They have too much talent on this team to not win. The time is now. But you talked about next year. He mentioned next year. That's okay. I know what you're talking about. Time is now. All right, well, they better figure out this offensive line, but I respect it. I think Kwaski re-signed Revenge Tour 4.0. Really?
I don't think
really?
So. Oh, you think you re-signed with the Niners?
Let me see.
I haven't seen that yet. That would be great. I would re-sign him. That would be smart. The last thing you want in the middle of the field are communication issues. So I'd like to have somebody that knows my system and that I know what he's capable of.
Jimmy G in garbage time. Oh, I hope we get to see fourth quarters with Jimmy. That would be fun. Remember when I was a kid, the Niners used to always do that. They would win by a lot, and then you'd see Jerry Rice and Steve Young wearing the hats. That's when you knew the game was over, and then it'd be Elvis Gerback on the field. You don't see that in the NFL as much anymore.
No.
I love that. The mop-up crew.
Garbage time play, yeah. And the Niners don't beat anybody by enough to get garbage time. Maybe twice a year? Garbage
time, Gerback. Nathan Flores says, no, Jimmy 2-pump fake is back. At least his deal is not $25 million. Learn to love him. 870 Euro says, huge fan of Trey and his potential, small fan of Jimmy Garoppolo. But I'm a Niner fan first. That means I want Trey to succeed. But not if it can cost us the season. True. Good call. Hutch Serves Gaming says Brady versus Jimmy in December.
Ooh.
Could be. At least it's not going to be Jimmy week 2 here with the Seahawks. Captains Jimmy and Nate. Krug is the man, says Stingray. Krug is the man. Mo Dollar says Trey's going to get hurt, benched week 10. Ooh, why would you put that into the universe? And Jimmy is going to pull a 2017 again and go 5-0 down the stretch. I see what you're saying, but don't predict things like that. A&M says not even 2 years ago, remember Brady wanted out of Tampa this offseason too. To think he wouldn't have wanted to go to SF again would be foolish in my opinion. Yeah, it's probably true. I can't help but notice that Tom Brady just walked away from the Bucs for like a month this offseason and then came back. Maybe he's going to therapy being like, why did I unretire? This team is terrible. I don't know. Possible. The offense is falling apart over there in Tampa. David W says so they have about $20 million in cap space for midseason acquisitions, could be set up for a deep postseason run. Niner fans excited. They could be. I got a leg. That's like an hour show. We could talk about other stuff, but I don't think anyone cares about anything other than Jimmy Garoppolo. What do you think? I don't think they care. We could talk about Jordan Mason. I just think it's kind of like no one's going to listen. I don't know. Well, it's tomorrow. Let's do it for a minute because it's freaking tomorrow. The final cuts are tomorrow.
Okay.
Roster decisions. What are the toughest ones you think the Niners have to make?
Well, to me, Purdy and Sudfeld is not tough. And some people would say it's not even a decision anymore because you're not going to keep 3. But once again, the same reason I want Garoppolo or the same reason that I'd want Purdy. I want to hoard more good quarterbacks that I can win games with, and I think I can win with Purdy. So I want Purdy. And then as far as Sermon versus Mason, I think Mason has looked better, but I also think Mason's more likely to slip through waivers.
Yeah, I
If you
agree.
if
Right?
you if you try to slip Sermon through waivers, I think just on that one run that he had on the 5-yard line where he busted out to the 18 and showed, I mean, that's on film. See that.
Plus, all these teams like scouted him and probably gave him second, third, fourth round grades, and there's probably some staffs that still like him.
Right. And he had a
It would fit them
300-yard
better.
day in college. I like Sermon. I just think that Sermon is a slow build and he needs more reps. And I think he did look much better in camp than I saw last year. I would cut Mason just because, even though I love Mason, but I would think Mason he'll make it to the practice squad.
With
I don't
Sermon,
think
I just
Sermon
think he's
will.
a bad fit because he's not a particularly violent runner. And when the wide receiver on the team that plays running back runs harder than you, that's a problem.
It is.
It's just a problem. So maybe he could be successful somewhere else, but I don't think he just fits into what the Niners want to be.
He's big and shifty though, and man, I don't know. I don't like giving away good football players. I haven't seen too many running backs around the league that are better than him that are going to get cut. So
he can catch passes too. He's a little bit like Jeff Wilson if Jeff Wilson didn't run hard.
Sorry, they're different kinds of runners. But
okay.
I don't think somebody said he's Barlow.
They're both 6 feet, 215. I mean, they both
he's not
catch
Barlow.
passes.
I think Sermon. I like Sermon. I don't think we've seen the Sermon that I expect to see yet.
I don't think they're going to give up on him either, and I think they feel that they can probably slide Jordan Mason because doesn't every team sort of have a Jordan Mason, the undrafted rookie that they like that played well, and I don't know that any team's looking at the Niners saying we gotta have Jordan. He's our starter.
Right. I think Jordan Mason may sneak through. I also think Sudfeld might sneak through. I don't think Sudfeld's.
I agree. Thank you.
And then I would go. I don't think I'm
$2
going
million to just be on the
wide.
practice squad. Sorry.
I also was going to say I don't think I'd go 6 wide receivers. I think I'd go with the extra back and go with 5 wide receivers.
That's smart. I mean, you're a run first. You want to run more than you do run more than you pass. Why do you have so many wide receivers when you, as Kyle even said, he goes through all of his running backs every year. CT Law, what are you doing? Hold on. Whew. Thank goodness I kept the show going.
Oh, look at that.
Says, if you're there, take a pic of Kittle's face. Not a stand-up guy. That was Jimmy's boy, and he went silent after he already had his money. He spit the bit. You know Jimmy can't stand Kyle. Now Kyle has to turn to him and bail him out. Drama. You're right. And for you, I will. Let's read it again. Kittle's face. Not a stand-up guy. That was Jimmy's boy, and he went silent after he already had his money. He spit. So he said he didn't advocate for Jimmy because he already got paid. You know Jimmy can't stand Kyle. I mean, that's probably true. Now Kyle has to turn to him to bail him out. Well, that was last year too. Drama. I know. I'm pro drama. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Jed. So great.
Yeah, you're loving this.
This is wonderful.
This is a great day for you.
So many people I want to thank. This is the last, and then the show is over. J.R. Beckle says Debo had a history of showing up to camp in college out of shape. Is that true? Wow. Debo got the bag and reverted back to his old ways. I hope by week 3 he's ready. I hope you're wrong. That's my fear. I hope
wait
you're
a second.
wrong.
I just saw at the bottom of the screen it said that there's an addendum in the Jimmy contract that says that he gets all of Grant's super chat revenue created by YouTube.
This is the house that Jimmy Garoppolo built right here. Thank you, Jimmy. I live here because you exist. Thank you so much.
The house that Garoppolo built.
The house that Garoppolo built. All right, that's the show. Thank you for giving me an hour of your time. I know that you're in the middle of doing something. I mean, you want to tell people?
I'm playing golf. It's a New York style Italian golf tournament down here at San Jose.
That's so nice of you, man. Thank you so much. Tyson, the show is over. Jimmy G is now Jimmy third round comp pick, baby. Jimmy 3. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Larry.
Have a good one.